One of the most important ideas in the Bill of Rights is that your private property belongs to you. It wasn't exactly a novel concept, but just in case there was any doubt, the Bill of Rights spelled it out. No one can seize your property without due process. And if you take a look at the major court cases in this area over the years, you'll find that you have the strongest privacy interests in your home, which makes sense. There's all kinds of exceptions that police can use to search your car or your locker at work, for example, but for your home, there aren't very many exceptions. Your home is your castle, as the saying goes. That's been true since the common law was created. But it's not true anymore. It's not even remotely true, in fact. It turns out that when you flood the United States with a limitless supply of illegal immigrants, while at the same time shipping millions of jobs overseas, then housing becomes a very scarce commodity. Squatters, mostly out of desperation, pop up in every home they can find, even homes that haven't been abandoned. And then when homeowners try to enforce their rights and kick these criminals out of the property they paid for, they're finding out that the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution has effectively been suspended. As we discussed briefly yesterday, squatters, home invaders, now have more rights than homeowners in many states across the country. The government will assist them in seizing your property. The police universally will take the side of the criminal home invader, and kick the homeowner to the curb. And then nonprofits and law firms rush in to represent the squatter in legal proceedings should they become necessary. And then somehow courts will often still rule in favor of the squatter, the home invader, the person who isn't supposed to be there. We don't have to speculate about any of this. It's all well documented at this point. No reasonable person can dispute it. And I'll start with an example that's gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of days. I want you to watch as a 47-year-old woman in Queens, New York, is dragged away from her own home in handcuffs because someone claims to have a lease for her property. Now, this guy can't show the lease to anybody, including the police and the media, but because he doesn't actually live there, he's invading the home. But because he claimed he's been living there for around a month, they arrest the woman, the homeowner, instead. Watch.
Today, I'm not leaving my house.
Less than 10 minutes after police left and the locks were changed.
That's not going on.
The man who claims to be the one actually leasing the house shows up.
Call the police again.
With the other guy, police took off the property.
Do you see this? This guy just literally broke down my door, broke through myself and my daughter to get in here. This guy just forced himself into my house.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did.
No, he did.
And so did you.
Ma'am.
You broke through the front door.
Officer.
The man called the police on her.
So why is it that I have to leave and he doesn't have to leave?
Because technically he can't be kicked out. We need to go to court.
They consider this a landlord-tenant issue. And by law, it has to be handled through the housing court, not with police.
If you own this house, you would not want her inside.
I don't own the house. I don't own this.
Exactly,
yes.
she does.
Yes, but then once again, you should know how the law works.
I do know how it works.
There's rules to the as you got to go to court and send me to civil court.
He says he signed a lease in October, but wouldn't tell us with who.
I got proof longer than that.
Show us the proof.
But who are you for me to show? I showed it to cops.
Dan with Channel 7 News. If you don't want to show it, you don't want to show it.
Proof. Come here, brother. I like that.
I would like to see it.
He didn't show me a lease.
This is a bill.
A bill for work he says he had done to the house. He didn't show police a lease either.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
Just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being
in my own home.
Arrested for being in her own home. That's exactly what happened. Unlawful eviction is what they call it, though. It's what they call it when you call the police because there's a home invader in your home. That's what you get if you're not willing to wait 2 years or more for New York's completely overloaded housing court to review your case. And by the way, even once New York's housing court does review the case, there's no guarantee they'll side with the homeowner. This is a city that has outlawed the right of self-defense, after all. And once that's gone, good luck getting them to enforce any of your other rights. This is the norm in left-wing jurisdictions now. It's not just that the police don't care about squatters with zero documentation whatsoever. It's also the fact that the courts don't enforce the law even when you bring flagrant crimes like this to their attention. In Washington State, as I mentioned yesterday, a judge just granted a restraining order against a landlord whose tenant hasn't been paying rent for years. The landlord organized a protest to bring attention to the situation. The judge shut it down. This is a tenant who's apparently purchased 2 cars while refusing to pay rent. And in Washington State, the court sides with him. This is not just a problem in New York City and Washington State. It's happening all over the United States. Consider this recent episode in Atlanta, for example. This is from just 4 months ago. A woman listed her home for sale, not for rent, for sale, and then complete strangers moved in and changed the locks. And in response, the police did absolutely nothing. Watch.
This is my home. and there's somebody in there, an intruder in there, intruders, who I do not know.
This wooded corner lot in Tucker was for sale, posted as plain as day online, for sale, not for rent. On closing day, homeowner Ronan McCabe discovered people, strangers, had moved in and changed the locks.
They broke into my house and moved in. All the locks had been changed.
Friday, October 20th, Mr. McCabe called Gwinnett County Police. The home had been empty for just a few weeks before it was filled with a stranger's furniture. He says the couple inside told police they had a lease.
They have no contract, no agreement with me. Gwinnett County Police are saying that there's nothing that they can do.
The Gwinnett PD's third trip was different. Things changed very fast. A woman who told police she was his wife abruptly left. He came out, went back in. Suddenly, U.S. Marshals started flooding the street. It seems they had a parallel investigation. Finally over, right? Nope. The female was back in the home. She hadn't been arrested for anything.
I'm asking her to move her stuff out today.
You can ask, but it might not pan out.
I mean, it's beyond parody. So the police do eventually show up, but it's not to evict the home invaders who are stealing the home, because that's something you can do now in America. You can steal an entire home. No, they show up because it's because they have their own parallel investigation for some other crimes that one of these squatters, a sex offender, committed in the past. So the cops take one man away in custody, but they allow the other squatter to stay on the property. The cops say the homeowner can ask for her to leave, but it might not pan out. That's what law enforcement means now. You can ask people to stop breaking the law. You can ask them, gee, will you stop breaking this law? Will you stop victimizing me this way? But, it might not pan out. It needs to be said that these are not close cases, okay? It's true that if it's a confusing situation, say a tenant appears to have legitimate lease documentation, then in that case, it's probably best that the cops don't arrest the tenant. And then in that case, you have to settle it in court because it's not clear who's in the right. But these are not difficult situations like that. When sex offenders start living in your house without any valid documentation, the police should remove them. When somebody barges into your home by force and just sets up shop, there shouldn't be any question about it. Of course they should be kicked out. But apparently that isn't happening anywhere. $20 barely gets you anything these days. You can't even fill your gas tank or get a burger and fries for less than $20. But do you know what $20 will get you? Well, from the cell phone company I use, Pure Talk, you can get unlimited talk, text, and plenty of 5G data for just $20 a month. Pure Talk gives you the same quality of service as your current cell phone provider, but for half the cost. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year, all with no contracts and no activation fees. You can switch to Pure Talk and keep the phone and phone number you currently use, or you can take advantage of their great deals on the latest iPhones and Androids. Making the switch is incredibly easy. Their U.S. customer service team can help you join Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. Choose to spend your hard-earned money with a wireless company that shares your values, supports our military and veterans, creates American jobs, and refuses to advertise on fake news networks. Stop spending a ridiculous amount of money on your phone plan. Go to puretalk.com/Walsh. Right now, my listeners get an additional 50% off their first month. That's puretalk.com/Walsh. A similar scene played out 7 months ago in Chicago, and this time a homeowner tries to rent out the property and squatters show up. But once again, the police do absolutely nothing. Watch.
My wife and I built our house 25 years ago.
Jim Johnson and his wife, Lark, were looking forward to some good neighbors when the for rent sign went up on this house in their cul-de-sac. But last week, they were shocked when a family seemingly moved in overnight.
When they show up and immediately rip down the sign of the leasing company or the owner company, you're kind of like, well, that raises a little concern. And then the next move is a locksmith shows up. You're kind of like, well, that's even more of a concern.
A call to the management company confirmed their fears. The new residents are not renters, but rather squatters.
They've gone to the grocery store. They've had cable come out. They are acting like they live there, but they have no furniture. They brought in a lot of blankets.
Hi, I'm Maya from Channel 13. Can I talk to you guys? Were you guys supposed to be staying here?
When we knocked on the door, a young woman answered.
Were you guys supposed to be staying here? Are you guys squatting?
She didn't want to talk to us, but a short time later, the sheriff's department was called. The deputies have confirmed to us that they are investigating the squatting situation. But for now, this has remained a civil matter, much to the chagrin of the neighborhood.
Well, what's been frustrating is that I have a 12-year-old that I don't even let walk across the street to her best friend's house without watching her, and we've never had that problem.
The ownership company says it has filed eviction papers, but our experience covering these stories shows sometimes it can take 6 months to a year for the process to work through the courts.
So we could spend all day going from city to city showing you footage like this. There's footage from rural jurisdictions as well that I could show you. It's happening all over. These kinds of home invasions are so common that one handyman has opened up a business advising homeowners how to regain access to their own homes when squatters show up. Basically, the idea is that you need to generate your own lease so that you can show it to the police officers who are now trained to respect your squatter's rights over your rights in your own home. Watch.
Well, squatters took over my mom's house after my dad passed away. We were trying to sell the home. I called local law enforcement, and as soon as they saw that there was furniture in the house, they said that I had a squatter situation and they had basically no jurisdiction and they couldn't do anything. So I dissected the laws over a weekend. I basically figured out that until there's civil action, the squatters didn't have any rights. So if I could switch places with them, become the squatter myself, I would assume those squatter rights. Just in case they had a fake lease, like I hear some do, I had my mom write me up a lease. We got it notarized.
I mean, it's hard to think of a more humiliating exercise than this. You own a property, and to access it and to get the police to enforce the law, you need to draw up some fake lease for them. And this idea actually works, by the way. And we know that because several years ago, the journalist Charlie LaDuff tried it in Michigan. He out-squatted the squatters. Watch.
Wonderful.
I'm coming to move in.
You are?
Yeah, I got the keys. What's for dinner?
I'm not cooking dinner. I'm gonna go pick up my child.
Oh, can I get in?
No, sir.
But I have the deed here.
You do?
Yeah, here's the deed. Here's the check.
All right.
Here's the deed, and I got permission from the landlord.
Okay, tell the landlord to come here.
I can legally go in there.
Well,
Yeah, I can legally go.
Yeah, you can legally come in.
So let me in my house.
I'll let you in your house. This is Lynn Williams' house.
Oh, it's
Lynn Williams.
It doesn't say Lynn.
Well, of course not, because she took all my paperwork and everybody else know it.
Is that power hooked up legit there?
My power is...
That's not legit.
It's not legit.
No, you stealing a bit of power.
I am blessed. Until
Oh.
I'm going to jail for squatting.
That's a turn of events.
Call my boyfriend next up.
Are you going to bail her out?
This is technically a violation of probation, so...
Oh.
Are you stealing power, he asks. I'm blessed, responds the squatter. At least the woman, I think, has a sense of humor. What's funny is that in this situation, unlike all the other ones, the police actually do take the original squatter to jail. This is the only time they'll take action to protect your property. You have to hire a new squatter to kick out the old squatter. I guess the idea is that, the most recent squatter gets dibs. This is a mockery of the idea of private property rights, obviously, and there's a reason it's happening. It's the same reason you see so much mockery of religion. It's the same reason BLM goes after the family unit. It's why the corporate media pushes transgenderism. Private property rights, like religion and the family unit, is a bulwark against total state control of our lives. As long as we have private property, the state can't control us, at least not as easily, at least not to the extent that they want to. Without private property, we're just renters. We are totally at the mercy of the powers that be. Renters can be evicted at will. You'll own nothing and be happy, as the saying goes. The Biden administration has done everything it can to normalize the destruction of private property rights. The administration fought to extend the COVID-era eviction moratorium as long as they could, long past the time that there was any plausible argument that ending evictions would somehow stop the spread. And by the way, there was never any plausible argument that that was going to help stop the spread. But even based on their original argument, they were extending it well past that. And that led effectively to the nationalization of private property in this country. Landlords lost the right to evict squatters paying no rent, even when they own the property outright. Let's watch that to remember.
Yeah, and they're the ones paying badly. We're talking about a young family with a 2-year-old child who are actually packed in a room at the in-laws because they cannot move into the house that they actually bought a year ago. Watch this.
My husband and I closed escrow the day that we got married, July 24th of last year. We were told because we are the new owners intending to live in the property, we would be able to evict them.
Them being squatters that had been staying on the Shadeway Road home in Lakewood.
So I was confused on the fact she can't even walk into the house even though she owns the house. I mean, what's that about?
That's right. Because the person living there, they were trying to do a remodel, and she initially let them. They have to ask permission to go into their own home because she has a right to her peace in the covenant. And if they just show up there without letting her know and getting her permission, she'll call the cops and they'll remove them. It's happened. The neighbors were telling me about it. It's crazy.
I don't even know where to go with that. Hopefully we can get her some help, and hopefully that shines a light on clearly a loophole that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, the anchor says it's a loophole, but it's the opposite of a loophole. It's not a loophole at all. The policy was working as intended. The eviction moratorium had nothing to do with a virus. It was intended to do something that's never happened in this country since the Civil War, which is the wide-scale suspension of private property rights. And once you pull off something as unconstitutional as seizing people's homes in a time of emergency, as the Biden administration defined it, then it becomes much easier to seize people's homes at any point in the future. And that is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing it play out again all across the entire country. And that means more homes for the millions of illegal aliens who are entering this country. It means more humiliation and destruction for American citizens. And it means we're getting closer to some homeowner somewhere snapping and deciding to take back his property by force. At this point, you have to imagine that's exactly what the people running this country want to see happen. Thanks for checking out this video. If you'd like to listen to my full podcast on the go, you can check out The Matt Walsh Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.